is piece number 162, the All T'oqapu Tunic from the Inca civilization. It's made of camelid fiber and cotton. We've heard of camelid before, camelid sacrum in the shape of the canine. And here we have, for context, the fact that people in the Inca Empire live at 11,000 feet. And so at that altitude, the temperature in a day can change 50 degrees from, night to day. So in that environment, a person needs clothing that has the fibers of these animals. So a couple things about naming. Llama is a term that we're familiar with in English speaking the United States, but llama is how that's pronounced. And wool is, in my experience, the fiber from a sheep, but wool is also the fiber from a llama. So that wool is what keeps people safe in clothing in that temperature at that altitude. Okay, context. Women were taken by the Inca government from all around the empire to come to the capital city of Cusco, where they were required to weave. They were kept in kind of against their choice, against their will. But these were the only people who, after a certain amount of service, were given land. That was an unusual process. These women, though, are called aklas, and they were kept in this building to weave. Weaving was highly prized in this environment, and they also made and served beer. Notice their loom, corn beer that is, their loom goes behind their backs here, and that keeps the looms taut. So I guess you'd have to really be sitting up straight in order to do that work. Looks like it could be arduous for a long period of time. So form, these All T'oqapu tunics have a slit here at the top center and on the sides for her head and then arms to go through. They're visually pretty wild and chaotic. This one is in particular. And the very best of these tunics that would have taken months for women to make are called kumbi, and they would have had 300 threads per square inch, which is kind of the worldwide norm for the very best of hand woven fabric. The function of it is that Pachacuti, remember, his name represents time, space, chaos. And so there is an argument by one of the leading experts on Incan art that this would have been a tunic that he or someone immediately after his sons would have worn, that would have given off the message of, I am the conqueror and I can conquer anyone in the world. The creation myth that is based on says that the creator created humans and painted them in all sorts of different patterns, and then the people popped up in whatever region was to be their region. And so it makes sense to that some of these patterns would not be patterns worn by people in the Incan Empire already, but that they're potential people to be conquered. Okay, or another function of this is that it could have been burned as sacrifice to the sun god Inti, because you'd only sacrifice your best goods. Carrying on with this function of it having meaning about conquering, the other, in addition to that, is that two of the squares are identifiable. This square that I've circled here in green is likely representative of diplomats or administrators of the Incan Empire, and this tunic that would have been worn by a warrior can be seen in miniature here in these squares. So the message might be that the Pachacuti could conquer the world, and he would use the military to do this, and he would have great administrators from the Incan Empire to keep control of such an empire. It is known then that in different regions of the Inca Empire, there were symbols that matched those peoples. And those symbols aren't necessarily in our All T'oqapu tunic. So here's one as an 8-pointed star. And so these are people who have already been conquered, which would indicate that our All T'oqapu tunic would represent future people to be conquered. Tunics in general could be given as gifts of loyalty to leaders in a region. They could also be required of regions to give fibers to the leaders in the city of Cusco so that those fibers could be turned by the women, the aklas, into these tunics. People who were able to wear these tunics demonstrated their status. Only the elite were allowed to wear such tunics, and so shows that they were elite and at the top of the heap. And then finally, red is really dominant color in our tunic, and the red was a dye that was considered more precious than silver or gold. It was gathered from the cochineal insect here, a little beetle, and which lived on the prickly pear cactus. And this is a super blown up view of a cochineal little insect. And it was the carminic acid from the cochineal body that was dried and then crushed and then joined together with aluminum or calcium salts, and that's what made the dye that was used then to dye the fibers of the llama. This cochineal dye is continually used in lipstick still today. All right, that's the All T'oqapu tunic of the Inca Empire.